You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
That's how good Abe does. I'm good. I throw all my stuff in. Abe and I have it recorded. Will it be edited? Well, it's gonna be live. It's gonna be well. There'll be an Instagram version. We'll have an Instagram live version of the show, and there'll be the edited. One will be 62 minutes. One will be 22. We found the highlights in here. Hey, here's the lead. Abe is going to talk. Here's a spoiler. Abe's going to talk about the infinite chest. Oh!
For 9 hours.
Talk about a doorbuster. Talk about a doorbuster.
Wait, Ken, let me
All right.
You want to see what's in my bag?
Oh, here we go. Hey, we're ready to go. We're checking. This is Something Rather Than Nothing podcast. We are recording live. If you're listening to this via Instagram, it is Independent Bookstore weekend day. I'm the voice you'll hear in the background until I stop talking is Abe Richmond, owner of Browsers Bookstores. But we have Independent Bookstore Day. This is an independent podcast, which is actually one of the biggest media outlets in Albany, Oregon. You know, I mean, it can be a sleepy town of 50,000, but 292 episodes, 293, 294, 300,000 listens. Top 5% podcast in the world, Abe.
I'm happy to be here, honestly.
Yeah, top 5%. Anyways, we're going to be talking about independent bookstores. I used to work in an independent bookstore. That'll be part of the question and answer later on. We have Jenny Peterson, who's in charge of recording for the Instagram Live. We have listeners from around the world, a ton of listeners in Australia, Canada. Hope you still listen, Canada. Hope you're still listening from this podcast from the United States of America. But we're going to be presenting something brand new on the show. And this is developed from, with all due respect, the great record store, Amoeba Records in the City Angels, Los Angeles, who has a segment called What's in Your Bag. And it's a really fun thing. If you've ever seen it, it's on YouTube. You have somebody, a musician you really love, and they go in shopping and find these kind of obscure albums. And I talk to a lot of artists about like what's in their head, what's in their mind, and it's just a fascinating, possibly dangerous thing to ask what's in their bag. We're going to do what's in your book bag today. Here on Something Rather Than Nothing. And but before we get into that special piece, a little bit about Abe, talking with Abe, owner, a book lover, thinker, town counselor, maybe too. A lot of people talk. Sure. Yeah, unpaid counselor, but just bookstore and bookstore types in independent bookstores, and just like how important they are right now. I wanted to ask you, like, a lot of people stop in the store, but can you just tell us about your vision for the store? What the bookstore is as you've done it, and into the future.
Well, I think our bookstore anyway needs to be the Swiss Army knife of bookstores. A little bit of something for everybody. Albany is a pretty small town. Is it a city? 50,000?
It's a city.
It's a sleepy city, and but it's pretty diverse as far as readership goes. And so we have to have, the $1 Western pulp from 1962. Personal favorite, and then we have to have the higher end collectible leather bound gilded fancy thing for the collector, because there's the range of collectorship is very wide, and we're casting a wide net here.
Yeah, I found actually in prepping because I'm gonna do the what's in your book bag. Abe's gonna ask me, but like it was so funny because I was looking through it and I actually found a book like I was like, holy wow. It's I'm not gonna is a lead in, but it was a first edition, and I come here what was I here yesterday 3 times, 4 times. I live nearby Browsers Bookstore, but it's just really cool, I think, to find to find books you're looking for. I keep a few books in my head that I hunt for over the years. Like maybe I could find it if I ordered it from Browsers or someplace in Illinois, but sometimes I go on a hunt for it in the physical stores. Um Indie bookstore. What's indie bookstore mean? Like, it's indie bookstore day. We're doing a big celebration. You have a bunch of artists here building community, but like why indie bookstore?
Well, we don't have an HR department, which is my favorite.
I work as a union rep. I'm not into HR departments, so that's fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, Dave.
We're bootstrapping it. We're doing our own thing. These books are sourced by us every day. Whether we're offering store credit or cash to people that walk in the door, or we get that random house visit where the real goods are. But it's us. We're doing it, and it's friends and family. It's not corporations and big business.
Yeah, it's been a great one of the things that I've seen and Abe and I have talked about a lot is something to be really conspicuous about, with the type of customers that come in, and both of us really sensitive to the art community in this area, and just celebrating the fact that, like, I don't know, people have this like a little bit of an attitude like around Albany that they don't have what they actually have. And I think if you look and you see the incredible artists, and you see the people come to the store in the community, and you really realize that whether it's authors, photographers, Pete Dryden, who've had on the show, painters, people make crafts, people are kind of like dedicated to like a certain type of ethos of pulling together. And it's something to celebrate and be conspicuous about. So that's why I like that there's an independent bookstore day. I don't want to leave the what's in your book bag segment out too long because that's like the one I'm most interested in. So here we go, everybody. Abe Richmond, I'm going to ask you, what's in your book bag?
Well, let's get it here.
It's a heavy bag.
Most importantly, though, I have this awesome UFO bookmark by, what's Jamie's Instagram? Jamie Sugar Canucci. It's Pete Dryden, who's been on the podcast. His lovely wife, and she made this UFO abducting.
That's gorgeous.
Something, and then on the backside there is this awesome nebulous galaxy, screenshot. But that was tucked into one of my favorite Infinite Jest copies because, well, aside from the book, period, this one's inscribed by David.
Oh, okay, go.
From 1999. And when this came into the store, you guys can look up the book. It's not that exciting. Nobody will read it, but you can pop your door open with it. But when I got so excited because the handwriting sloppy, like David Foster Wallace's was, and the year fits, and I got so excited. It is not David Foster Wallace's handwriting. It's not even close. But it made me, I had some chest palpitations when it came in. It is a second edition, which is cool. But one of the telltale signs is William T. Volman's name on the back of the cover is spelled correctly. On the first edition, it was not. They only had one in instead of two.
Oh, goodness. All right, so this is the corrected second edition. Now, you've downplayed your connection to this book just a tiny bit here. I'm pretty sure that like large volumes of Ken Follett, no shade on Ken Follett, but like big volumes here. It's not just a prop open a door, and I know a lot of people have talked about Infinite Jest, but now I haven't read it. But I did purchase it from Browsers Bookstore last week, and I will read it. But I have seen some interviews with David Foster Wallace, and I found those absolutely fascinating from a kind of just the way he talked about art and creating and writing. But all right, nobody wants a nutshell like what you think of Infinite Jest, but it's an important book to you. Why is it an important book to you?
I I think it's the monstrosity that it is, and it's a beautiful one. But he ties together so many desperate things or disparate things that should not go together. For instance, an elite children's tennis academy called Infield Tennis Academy, a halfway house in Boston, and paraplegic Canadian terrorists. You round all that together, and that's Infinite Jest, along with a, movie that may or may not kill you upon watching it.
They made a movie of it?
The movies are it's a film book. There's nothing but film references and what technology will do to us if we watch it too much. They did not make a film of it. They should, and Wes Anderson should direct it. It'd be about 14 hours long. But in one of the main plot pieces is there's a movie in the book that may kill you while watching it.
All right, Abe's idea is hereby trademarked. Abe, let's not go on infinitely here on Infinite Jest. Much to say, a book is important to you, a book to wrangle, and those are familiar with it. There must have been 2 or 3 copies here at Browsers. All right, here we go. Next book from Abe. What's book number 2 in your book bag?
Book number 2 is The Monkey Wrench Gang by Edward Abbey, and this particular one was published by Dream Garden Press, which is out of Ken Sanders' Rare Book Place bookstore in Utah, if I remember correctly.
Of course.
And but I really like this one because R. Crumb did the illustrations.
Wow. Well, you're gonna have to. I'm sorry for folks just on audio. The Instagram folks are gonna get the Monkey Wrench Gang cover by R. Crumb here. Tell us more about the Monkey Wrench Gang, if you want to, by taking a look at the cover. I'm asking you.
Well, it's what would happen if if me and my friends got together and wanted to blow up Glen Canyon Dam, which I don't recommend. This is not life advice, but
No.
if you wanted to, this might be the manual.
And what else is Edward Abbey famous for? Help me out.
He's famous for Desert Solitaire, which is another very important book that everybody should read. And as us Earth lovers, art and Earth are not much different. And so I think everybody should read probably, his collected works for sure.
I remember that title, and this is probably a segue for me, Desert Solitaire. Here's the Independent Bookstore segue, Abe, I was telling you about. I used to work for an independent bookstore in Bethesda, Maryland called Travel Books and Language Center, which doesn't exist any longer, but it had that book, Desert Solitaire, because what we would have is travel books and like guides for different type of, well, I would say economic classes.
Sure.
Right.
Sure,
So
yeah.
like if you want to travel this way or that way. So I was an important person when it came to travel advice at a young age and with a lot of class resentment. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that worked out overall. Do you have another book, Abe?
I've got another one, and this is Pete, who has been on the podcast and is in the room, staring at me nervously about what I'm going to say. This is called Various Small Books, and it's a book referencing books by Ed Ruscha. There's nothing I love more than books about books. It comes with the territory. But in the 60s, I believe it was, he made a book called 26 Gas Stations and took pictures of these various different gas stations. And then, there's been spin-offs ever since. 26 gasoline stations, excuse me. But then there were some spin-offs through the years, like 24 Former Filling Stations by Frank I. And let's see, another good one. Same
Gas.
gas.
Wait a second here. There's multiple gas station photo projects here.
There's more than 36 fire stations. A lot of them are gas stations, but I have this grand notion of doing 26 bookstores and we'll start in the Willamette Valley and then, spread out, because even though they wrote 26 gas stations, there's also 26 gas stations in the state over. So we might, expand that a little bit.
Like I said, you never know what you're going to find when you ask the question. Normally the show asks, why is there something rather than nothing? We're looking into the contents of shoppers' bags. Did you have any more? Is this the crescendo? It's a lovely book, folks.
Oh, this is a peak book bagness.
All right.
But I'm curious what you have in
I
your
have
bag.
to I have to get out my book bag, and it's fun to talk about obsessions. I want to start. These are hot off the skillet books, I would say. This is the one I found that I just loved. This is a first edition of Kathy Acker, In Memoriam to Identity. I've never seen a first edition of Kathy Acker's In Memoriam to Identity. But one of the greatest things for me about Kathy Acker is living in the Pacific Northwest and her outsized influence both on literature, kind of intellectual figurehead of Riot Girls and the grunge that comes out of Seattle, punk writer, punk life, and what I found so great about her was that there was a certain lawlessness in the writings. So to give you an example of some of the wildness, she also wrote Great Expectations. And she also wrote Don Quixote in her own versions. And at some point she would lift entire text and plagiarize from other texts as a kind of I don't know, just gesture or a punk act. So she writes that way. She died young. And this, for me, seeing a Kathy Acker In Memoriam to Identity first edition in the store, this was in my bag. And so this is going to go back on the shelf, anybody, Kathy Acker, if you get excited by that. So I'm handing it over for visuals to the instant folks. Jenny, my partner, handed me this book, which this actually came from the house. Defensive Eating by Morrissey, with Morrissey, I actually should say. It's not by Morrissey. I've read Morrissey's autobiography, and as much as I am fascinated by Morrissey, that book, I would not suffer again. Sorry, Morrissey. Vegan recipes from The One You Left Behind. So a vegan cookbook. I will say, though I've been a lifelong vegan, I haven't used this cookbook yet. This is a curio. We should have this as a curio.
This is what I was talking about, casting a wide net. You got to have, defensive eating with Morrissey, because somebody will want it.
Somebody will want it and live by it. You have Cookie Monster with Morrissey, and the visuals are available for Instagram, folks. And a lot of pictures of Morrissey. Go figure. Go figure. Pictures of Morrissey. Abe and I have talked about this book multiple times. I'm super excited. And folks who know me know I'm a Megan Lamb fan. Megan does goth and industrial music. She's out in Chicago. This is her recent book with short stories called Mirror Translation. And I just love this as a volume. I think sometimes when you trip out on how a book is bound, how it's put together, the art, whether it's pulp, or whether it has a flashy finish, or Penguin Classics, or sometimes how the books and the words are presented. But this one has really incredible art by Shannon Hozinec. I hope I pronounced that right. It's Hozinec. And it's a beautiful collection. And this book is almost through its first print. So just so everybody knows, if you're local or otherwise, there is a copy of mirror translation by Megan Lamb. Available here at Browsers. You've taken a look at this, haven't you, Abe?
I have, and I actually didn't want to take our only copy, so I ordered a couple more to fill the shelves and one for myself.
All right. Shout out to Chicago. I want to present to you something I talked to you before about, but in my opinion, I'll give my opinion. I'll give the reasons why. This book, Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 1972, is the best piece of political reportage in from the United States, or maybe in the English language, and a bold statement regarding Hunter S. Thompson. But I want to tell you, when it comes to political analysis, I think a lot of people kind of really miss how sharp the instincts were on analysis of the American condition. And one of the pieces that I really connected to on this book was Hunter was with groups that were canvassing in places like Wisconsin in the Democratic primaries. He was out there in New Hampshire. He was with how these campaigns were run, both from a PR standpoint and on the ground standpoint. And it's such an acute political analysis. I think maybe folks might not assume it to be there. I also like this too. I was born in the year 1972. So over the years, when it comes to music or books of influence, or even the candidacy of the first African-American woman, Shirley Chisholm, for president, 1972, just these, I'm drawn to that time. And also it just feels kind of cool to look back, at least for me, not having lived at the time, but to feel that something was captured and described, and there were elements of proof in the journalism. So that's why I love this book, and I always try to praise it. So folks really try to. I think it should be the first book, or one of the first books outside of Plato's Republic and some other classics when you're looking at politics that everybody should study.
That got me thinking. Infinite Jest came out the year I was born. I wonder if there's some synchronicity there so I'm so drawn to it.
I think Breakfast of Champions was published the year I was born as well. It was one of my favorites. No, that's fascinating. The year you're born, Infinite Jest.
Yeah.
And did you discover that at a certain point you're like, holy cow, this is, it's the same year I was born.
At some point, I'm, obviously I've figured it out, but I've been in the book world for a while now, so I don't remember when I discovered that.
All right. I got we got to move to the next segment here. We have one more what's in your book bag, and I'm going to ask friend of the show, and Abe, did you want to hang here and you want to chat with Pete about the book bag? No, he's shaking his head no. The host will hold the stage. We're asking Pete Dryden up to the stage. Thank you. We got Pete here. Pete is an amazing artist, photographer, and I forgot to write down the gosh darn episode number. But no, if you go to the website, Spotify, and elsewhere, look for Pete Dryden, Something Rather Than Nothing, and we had a great conversation a while back. But Pete, we're in the What's in Your Book Bag section of the show. How are you gonna start us off here? Book one. What's in your book bag?
Well, Ken, thanks for having me on the show. I'm gonna start with The Bone Clocks, which is by David Mitchell. This particular book is a signed copy, which is fun. A friend of mine had once said that when you have a signed copy of a book, it's cool to have, not only for Well, the main reason why it's cool is because the author also held this book, and it's as close as you're going to get to that author, more than likely. But Bone Clocks was brought to my attention by a friend. Should I, too close?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
That I hadn't read anything by David Mitchell before, and it was a book that really, really got me fascinated in the way that David Mitchell kind of plays with time and uses characters in and out of other stories where he's playing with multi-dimensional worlds. And that was a fun concept to me. And so after Bone Clocks, then I read Slade House. Anyway, that would be the first book.
There's something about the signature piece of it too. I got a book, and how special it can be. I have a friend of mine lived in Austin, Texas, and David Lynch was coming through on his book, Catching the Big Fish, which I talk a lot about on the show. Creativity, and the basis of creativity is some more inner solemnity in capturing the strange images. So I have a signed copy of that, and it just has that same feel, particularly after David Lynch's passing, like that kind of temporality. All right, Pete. Book number 2. Hey, what's in your book bag, Pete Dryden?
Book number 2 is Edward Abbey's Hayduke Lives, which, again, the same guy that recommended Bone Clocks, he also recommended the Monkey Wrench Gang. And I loved the Monkey Wrench Gang. Like, it was such a fun read. It was so unique. It was fun, and all the characters are characters that it's like, I would hang out with those people. Like, they sound like they would be fun to go on a road trip or explode a dam or just go camping.
This is the second time it's come up.
I know. But I have not read Hayduke Lives. So I thought today would be a good day to pick that up and continue the world of Hayduke.
I'm excited just by looking at it, and just seeing I seen the name again. I was asking Abe about Abbey. I got to tell you, I got to admit to folks who are listening that I was able to peek inside the book bag, and I saw Cormac McCarthy. My brain just blitzed out because I'm very excited to see. So pull out the next book, Cormac McCarthy. I saw the cover and lost my brain.
The third would be No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. I haven't read all of McCarthy's, but this is, at this point, my favorite of his. I think it's just it's very fluid in how the story is unfolded, and everybody's likable. I'm trying to remember the bad guy's name.
Is Sugar.
Sugar is like such a great character. I every time that he was involved in the story, he was just the most captivating to me.
Yeah.
And with in the movie, Javier Bardem plays him, and I can't think of another person that could have played it as well as he did. So when you read the book, it's hard not to automatically think like, yep, that is Sugar. Which every once in a while that happens. I think another good example is Jack Nicholson playing in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
It's hard to see anybody else playing that character but Jack Nicholson. It's like, no, that was a perfect casting.
Yeah, that almost overwhelming of a performance. I'm a big McCarthy fan. Born in Rhode Island, by the way. How's that for a curiosity?
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't
I
see
grew
that
up
one
in
coming.
in Texas for the most part. Definitely, the feel of the Southwest and Texas. But I've read a lot of McCarthy, and absolutely one of my favorite authors. And I could go on and on, but his last couple books he published, I think, within a month of each other. What fascinates me to no end is that the last book is kind of like this private diary of a woman, sister. The sister relationship's important within the books in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, and it was compared a lot of time, some articles, to a kind of curious book called The Wisconsin Death Trip, and just this kind of like dark history, and just kind of strange that he ended up in a spot like that. But I got to tell you, I had the strangest reaction, No Country for Old Men, when I first read it. There was a character, just in general, a character death in there for me that was so disruptive in the narrative of how it flowed. I was almost like offended. I
Hmm.
was drawn along. I was so surprised about how it was brought about, and how it was done, that I respond to books not usually that much, and I actually set it aside for some bit. And my first read through, I still didn't have, like, with that reaction, I still didn't have it kind of balanced in my head. But I read it a couple more times since then, and plus the book, and just recognize it just as a work of absolute genius.
Mm-hmm.
Cormac McCarthy, love it. Yeah, born in Rhode Island. Curious little fact there.
Yeah.
Did you have any more books?
I have one that
All
I
right.
have nothing to really say other than I just came across it. It's
Yeah,
called
tell us.
Humans: A Monstrous History by Sharika Davies.
Yeah.
I found it in the social science uh, area, I guess. I don't know anything much about it, but it just fascinated me because it looks like it is the author kind of historically brings up a lot of instances and um, people that our society would deem as monsters, but um, it appears that she's shedding light on just what exactly that is that we also quickly draw to as defining what a monster is. I don't even, maybe I'm giving it a terrible review and that's not exactly what it's about. But
I had a friend who's studies literature, name's Devin. She did a lot of research, literature, and thesis and such on the concept of monster, and it's like really cool to think about it in that type of way, thinking about it kind of outside of just throwing out what is monstrous as a reflection of the society at the time. Hey, speaking out to you. Hey, Jenny, holding the camera out there for the Instagram folks is really great. Thank you for your help. One thing I wanted to, and everybody in the audience or would be listening to this, we're gonna be doing more segments of what's in your book bag with Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, and uh, some of these titles right here are sitting in the store. So if you're nearby or want to check out Browsers Bookstore website, and signing off for the time being, Something Rather Than Nothing on Independent Bookstore today. Independent Bookstore Day 2025 from Browsers Bookstore, Albany, Oregon, aka A-Town. Thank you.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.
And listeners, to stay connected with us and our guests, visit somethingratherthannothing.com. Join our mailing list for exclusive updates and access to guest-created art. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform. People really read that shit. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our community across the planet. This is a global show, and we like to give a shout out to our many listeners across the world, including many listeners in Canada, Spain, Germany, UK, Argentina, Brazil, India, Thailand, and so many more places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast for behind the scenes content. And the best way to help the show is to tell your friends about us. If you love it, they'll love it too. Tell your friends who love it. We love you. This is Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast.